Hey, so today I'll be showing you how I built this grow light system for the existing NFT system I built here at the local middle school. I designed it to work seamlessly off of the current NFT design, and you can either use this exact design or simply incorporate and tweak some of the aspects to fit your own NFT system. So let's get started. So here are all the materials you'll need for the NFT grow light system. You'll need 4 3/4 inch corner PVC pieces, 2 3/4 inch 90-degree elbows, and a 3/4 inch tube cut to various lengths. You'll need 3 cut to the width of your horizontal braces, which in my case are 17 inches. You'll need 6 pieces the height of where you want the light to be. I cut mine to 9 inches. And lastly, you'll need 2 pieces cut to the vertical length between the existing NFT supports. For tools, you'll need a PVC pipe cutter to make all the cuts. For all of the soldering, you'll need a soldering iron and some solder. For the grow light, you'll need an LED grow light strip. This one is 1 meter in length and costs between $2 to $4. You'll need to get red and blue lights specifically because they use minimal energy while providing the ideal light spectrum needed for plant growth. But this is a pretty good alternative and a better alternative to full spectrum lighting, which will drive up your energy costs and will also waste energy emitting light that the plants can't even absorb, like green, which plants reflect, hence their green appearance. You'll also need a drill and a power supply, since this LED light strip doesn't come with one and instead just has 2 loose wires, a negative and a positive with which to hook up your own power supply. And lastly, you'll need some wire, which you'll use to elongate this one strip into 3 strips. This project does require you to be somewhat familiar with a soldering iron, but you don't have to be great at it. I'm terrible at it, but I managed just fine. So as I said, you'll need a power supply. And I was originally intending to use this other LED light strip that came with a USB connector, but as I later found out, the red and blue grow light LED light strip requires a 12-volt power supply, and USB only outputs 5 volts. Luckily, I had a spare 12-volt power supply at home. You might be able to get away with a 9-volt power supply, but the recommended is 12, so that's what I went with. Okay, so to start, I need to make this one strip into 3 separate strips, because our NFT system is a 3-tier system. So I want 1 strip per tier. LED strips usually come with these little copper circles here, where you can cut and resolder to segment it, or lengthen by adding more strips, or shorten. Each copper connection is broken up into 3 LED segments, so you can cut here and only here. So for this 1 meter strip, I would ideally need to cut it into 3 equal lengths. However, there are 20 segments per strip, which doesn't divide evenly into 3 parts. So instead, I'll cut 2 strips to 7 segments and 1 strip to 6 segments, which is as close to uniform as you can get, which should be enough and won't be a problem. When cutting, be careful to cut directly down the middle of the copper circles. The 2 half circles you're left with are going to be your soldering points. Okay, so I quickly assembled the pieces here to show you how I'll be connecting the wires. You'll need to drill some holes big enough for your wires to go through so you can have them tucked away and unexposed. It's easier to connect the PVC pieces and then mark out all the holes to make sure your corners and elbows don't cover the holes. This is the perfect time to measure your wire. You'll need it to be long enough to come out of both holes, plus about 2 inches longer on each side, just in case you need some slack. It's better to have a wire that's too long, since you can always tuck it into the pipe when you're done, rather than have a wire that's too short and throw it away. Okay, so I didn't show my soldering process because of how bad I am at it, but I got the job done. Here, I have the 3 strips all soldered and wired up through the frame. And as you can see, the 3 strips are just dangling at the moment. I can go ahead and remove the backing to expose the adhesive and secure it to the frame, but before that, I need to hook it up to the power supply to make sure it all works before setting anything in permanently. Okay, so I had to bring the entire thing back home because I left the power supply here. And when I tested it out, it turns out that the last strip wasn't lighting up. So I resoldered the connection and now everything works. So it's a good thing I didn't glue these down yet, because if I had tried to solder these while on the PVC, I might have melted some PVC, which is a horrible idea because although PVC is safe to use, when burned it gives off really toxic fumes, so be careful not to burn any. So here's my power supply. It's a 12-volt power supply and it has a normal male end connection. And I could just solder an adapter onto my light strip, but I don't have one. So instead, I'll put one wire on the inside and one on the outside and just hold it all together with electrical tape. Okay, so now I'm going to finish adhering the strips to the frame by just removing the backing. You just peel it off and press firmly where you want the strips to lay. Try to get it as center as possible. Next, I'm going to cover all the exposed connections with electrical tape to keep them from moving or shorting out, especially since they'll be so close to water. I'm just covering the tips without covering the LEDs and doing the same for the exposed wire. Then I'll also secure the final connector so that the weight of the power supply doesn't rip the strip off the frame. Next, I'm hooking up the extenders and taking it back to the school. Also, I won't be hooking up the power supply until the end, so it's less cumbersome to transport. So here's the NFT system. It's currently looking miserable, which we hope to fix by adding the lights. So first, I'm going to remove the NFT pipes and the supports and replace them with the new light frame. Okay, so I removed the NFT tubes and added the new light system. Because of the slope I added to the NFT system, the new light frame didn't go on straight and bent the NFT frame a bit. So the frame is uneven, but it won't really matter with the weight back on. Okay, so everything is back up and all that's left is to connect the power supply. I'm going to hook up the power supplies to the lights before plugging it in. This will reduce the risk of shock and of accidentally shorting out the lights. So I have everything running now, and as you can see, I connected the power supply here and taped it all together with an excess amount of tape, just in case this gets tugged or splashed with water. So now that I have it all hooked up, I'm going to go ahead and plug it into the wall, and that's it. I do have the angle off a little, as the lights are currently pointing at the tubes instead of where the plants will be. Ideally, you'd want the strip here, and I should have taken that into account, but I'm still happy with the results. Also, this light has such a low wattage that unlike fluorescent and incandescent grow lights, you can keep these on for 24 hours without worrying about the energy costs. And finally, here's what it looks like with the lights off. As you can see, that is a lot of light, despite me tilting them the wrong way. But it's still a lot of light. Certainly more than without any light, especially in this case where the NFT is facing away from the window. And this isn't necessarily the best way to add grow lights to an NFT system, but this is the best way I could think of on a tight budget while working with the NFT design already in place. And with that, I hope you guys enjoyed the video and thank you for watching.